This woman. Her name is Caitlyn. She destroyed her marriage the moment she looked in the mirror and liked what she saw. At 33 years old, she sits alone in her expensive apartment, checking her phone every few minutes, desperately waiting for a text that will never come. Her ex-husband Kevin has blocked her from his life completely. And the worst part? She knows she deserves it. This is the story of how getting everything you thought you wanted can cost you everything that actually mattered. I'm Emma, your storyteller, and today I'm sharing a tale that will make you think twice about what true happiness really means. Caitlyn never imagined she would become this person. You know the type. The woman who leaves her devoted husband after a major transformation, only to spend every waking moment trying to crawl back into his life. But that's exactly where she finds herself now, staring at an empty message thread, hoping against hope that Kevin will respond. He hasn't answered a single text in weeks, and truthfully, she understands why. The story begins about 18 months ago. Caitlyn was drowning in stress from her demanding job, the kind of anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding, unable to shake the weight crushing your chest. Kevin, being the caring partner he had always been, noticed her struggling. He suggested she try exercising to help manage her mental health. Kevin had faced similar battles years earlier, before they were married, and physical activity had been his lifeline. Caitlyn's initial reaction was skeptical. The gym? That was his brilliant solution? But she was desperate enough to try anything that might ease the constant tension in her mind. So they started going to the gym together. Kevin had maintained a healthy physique for years. Nothing extreme or showy, just consistently fit. Meanwhile, Caitlyn had always carried extra weight. Her mother used to call her curvy, which was just a polite way of avoiding harder words. Kevin never seemed bothered by it. He consistently told her she was beautiful, and when he looked at her, she could see he meant it. That look made her believe. Those first few weeks working out felt absolutely brutal. Caitlyn was convinced everyone at the gym was judging her, the overweight woman struggling on the treadmill while others glided along effortlessly. But Kevin stayed by her side, patiently teaching her how to use the equipment, encouraging her when she wanted to quit. When his work schedule became more demanding after a promotion, Caitlyn began going to the gym alone. That's where she met Tessa, an energetic fitness instructor who persuaded her to join group classes. About 3 months into her fitness journey, Caitlyn started noticing real changes. Her clothing hung looser on her frame. Her reflection in the mirror looked different, sharper. Coworkers began commenting on her transformation. And as her physical appearance shifted, so did something inside her mind. She felt powerful for the first time in years, like she finally controlled something in her chaotic life. The depression that had suffocated her began to lift. Energy she hadn't felt in ages returned. Getting dressed each morning became exciting as she experimented with styles she never would have considered before. Kevin noticed the changes too. She would catch him watching her get ready, a small smile playing on his lips, pride evident in his eyes. Their intimate life improved as he initiated more often, but something felt different now. Caitlyn was different. She started accepting more social invitations. Tessa introduced her to a whole new circle of friends through fitness-related happy hours. Suddenly, Caitlyn had people in her life who only knew this new version of her. Not the sad, heavy woman who used to cope with stress by eating entire pints of ice cream after work. Men started buying her drinks. They flirted openly, and Caitlyn soaked up every bit of that attention like she'd been starving for it her entire life. Kevin began noticing this change in behavior too, but his pride was replaced with concern. At gatherings with mutual friends, Caitlyn would catch him watching her interact with other men. His expression had shifted from supportive to worried. He never confronted her in those moments, but she could read the questions in his eyes. Did that stop her from pushing boundaries? Absolutely not. If anything, his visible discomfort made her more defiant. After all, she was still the same person inside, just in a more attractive package. He didn't have the right to feel jealous now. Their home life began deteriorating. Caitlyn filled her schedule completely. Early morning gym sessions, full workdays, evening classes, or social events. Who had time for mundane tasks like dishes or laundry? Kevin quietly started handling the household chores she neglected. He didn't complain, but she could see the unspoken questions accumulating in his gaze. Where was she going? Who was she spending time with? Was she still the woman he married? One particular evening stands out in Caitlyn's memory with crystal clarity. They attended one of her work events together. Owen was there. He was a consultant who had been openly flirting with Caitlyn for several weeks. Nothing physical had happened between them yet, but Caitlyn wanted it to. Kevin observed them talking. Owen's hand rested casually on her lower back. Caitlyn didn't step away. She laughed too enthusiastically at his jokes. She touched his arm unnecessarily. Across the room, Kevin simply watched with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Not anger. Something far worse. Disappointment carved into every feature. During the drive home, Kevin finally spoke up. His voice was quiet, careful. "What's happening with you and that guy?" Caitlyn's response was defensive, sharp. "Nothing. We're colleagues. We're friends." "It didn't look like just friendship," Kevin observed gently. The anger that burst out of Caitlyn shocked even her. "Oh my God. Are you seriously jealous right now? You're the one who wanted me to get in shape. Remember?" The words were cruel and completely untrue. Kevin had never pressured her about her weight, not once. He had only suggested exercise as a tool for her mental health. But in that moment, Caitlyn weaponized his kindness against him. After that confrontation, tension filled their home like toxic smoke. Caitlyn stayed out later and later. She stopped responding to Kevin's texts. She would come home to find him asleep on the couch, having waited up for her. When he asked about her whereabouts, she treated his concern like controlling behavior. Looking back now, she can see he was simply worried about her, worried about them. But at the time, she viewed him as an anchor dragging her down, preventing her from experiencing her exciting new existence. Caitlyn started comparing Kevin to other men constantly. She scrolled through social media, examining what other couples looked like, what other men offered. Why didn't Kevin dress more fashionably? Why didn't he put in more effort? She had completely transformed herself, and there he was, unchanged. The thought that kept growing louder in her mind was toxic and devastating. She had settled for Kevin. She had been with him because she didn't think anyone better would want her when she was heavier. Now that she knew she had options, Kevin seemed inadequate. When Kevin suggested marriage counseling, Caitlyn completely exploded. She felt accused of something terrible, even though he had simply suggested they work on their relationship together. The words that came out of her mouth in that moment still haunt her. "Maybe I've just realized I can do better than you." The expression on Kevin's face looked like she had physically struck him. But Caitlyn didn't stop there. She continued, listing all the ways she felt she had settled for him, how she had only stayed with him because her options seemed limited when she was heavier. She didn't mean any of it. Not really. She was drunk on attention and validation, addicted to the feeling of being desired. But in that heated moment, she convinced herself every cruel word was true. Kevin just listened. He didn't defend himself. He didn't fight back. When Caitlyn finally ran out of venom to spit, he asked one simple question. "Is that really how you feel?" And Caitlyn, may she be forgiven for this, said yes. 1 week later, divorce papers were filed. The devastation in Kevin's eyes when he was served haunted Caitlyn's nights, but she pretended indifference during the day. She convinced herself this was her moment, her opportunity to live the life she deserved. Caitlyn moved out of their shared home immediately. She found a trendy apartment downtown that stretched her budget to its limits. She wanted a completely fresh start. New body, new home, new life. She blocked Kevin on every platform except email, instructing him to communicate only through their lawyers. The coldness she displayed was calculated, businesslike. She remembers him calling repeatedly that first night. 20 calls she ignored while out celebrating her newfound freedom with Tessa and the gym crowd. They didn't know the complete story, just the version where Caitlyn was bravely leaving her marriage to discover herself. Tessa kept buying rounds, praising Caitlyn's courage. The worst part was that Caitlyn started believing her own narrative. She saw herself as some kind of feminist hero for walking away from a perfectly good man who loved her. She even posted a cryptic, inspirational quote on social media alongside a carefully posed selfie. It received hundreds of likes. Kevin's friend Kyle reached out after seeing the post, calling her heartless. Caitlyn blocked him immediately. During those initial weeks of separation, Caitlyn felt euphoric. She downloaded multiple dating apps, She increased her flirtation with Owen at work. She bought expensive furniture she couldn't afford and posted photos about starting new chapters. She changed her hair, adding highlights. She purchased entire new wardrobes. She was constructing a completely new identity as attractive, single Caitlyn. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings moved forward, and Caitlyn made everything as difficult as possible. She demanded half of everything, including savings Kevin had accumulated before they were married. Even her lawyer tried to moderate her requests, but Caitlyn wanted blood. Owen asked her out officially about a month after she left Kevin. Their first date was at an upscale restaurant Caitlyn had always wanted to try, but Kevin thought was overpriced. Owen ordered expensive wine, complimented her outfit, touched her leg under the table. It seemed exactly what she craved. They ended up at his place that night. The entire time she was with Owen, Caitlyn found herself making mental comparisons to Kevin. Owen's apartment was more modern. Owen's career seemed more prestigious. Owen's physique was more defined. But Owen didn't ask how she slept. He didn't remember her coffee preferences. He didn't look at her the way Kevin had, like he could see beyond the surface to who she truly was. Still, Caitlyn doubled down on her choices. She posted photos with Owen within weeks, knowing mutual friends would see them and tell Kevin. She wanted him to know she had upgraded. She wanted to hurt him the way she was hurting, because despite all her confidence, a hollow feeling was growing inside her that she refused to acknowledge. 3 months into the divorce process, mandatory mediation brought Caitlyn face-to-face with Kevin for the first time since she left. She arrived prepared to be cold and distant, wearing her most expensive outfit, hair and makeup perfect. But Kevin looked different. Good. He had gotten a haircut, lost a bit of weight. He appeared calm, centered. He remained polite throughout the meeting, even smiled at the mediator's attempts at humor. Meanwhile, Caitlyn was falling apart internally. Her hands shook. Her voice came out tight. She expected Kevin to fight her on every demand, but he didn't. He agreed to most of her requests with quiet dignity that made her feel small and petty. At one point, his lawyer whispered something to him about the wedding album Caitlyn had demanded out of spite, knowing Kevin was the sentimental one who would treasure it. Kevin shook his head. No, it's fine. She can have it. After the meeting ended, Caitlyn approached Kevin in the parking lot. She suddenly desperately needed to know he was suffering too. So, you're really okay with all of this? Kevin looked at her for a long moment. No, Caitlyn, I'm not okay, but I'm going to be. Then he got in his car and drove away. No drama, no begging, no tears. And somehow, that destroyed Caitlyn more than anything else could have. That evening, Owen canceled their plans at the last minute. Work emergency, he claimed. Caitlyn sat alone in her expensive apartment, scrolling through old photos of her and Kevin. There was one from 3 years earlier at his parents' anniversary celebration. Caitlyn was heavier then, wearing a blue dress that wouldn't fit her now, but the way they looked at each other in that photo, like nothing else existed in the world. She couldn't remember the last time she felt that way with Owen, or if she ever had. She called Owen, needing reassurance. He didn't answer. An hour later, she called again. Still nothing. On impulse, Caitlyn drove to his building. She's not proud of what she did next. She parked and watched. Another woman entered his building, gorgeous, model-thin, younger than Caitlyn. She watched them embrace in the lobby before elevator doors closed on them. Caitlyn cried the entire drive home. Not because she loved Owen. She didn't. But because everything she thought she wanted was revealing itself as empty and meaningless. The divorce finalized faster than expected. Kevin didn't contest anything at the end. At the final signing, his lawyer handed Caitlyn an envelope along with the legal documents. Kevin asked me to give you this. Inside was a brief note in Kevin's handwriting. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. No anger. No bitterness. Just kindness Caitlyn knew she didn't deserve. She sat in her car afterward and sobbed for an hour. Owen and Caitlyn's relationship fizzled out weeks later when she discovered he was seeing 3 other women simultaneously. I thought we were casual, he said, genuinely confused when she confronted him. You just left a marriage. I didn't think you wanted anything serious. The truth was, Caitlyn no longer knew what she wanted. Her dream life was nothing like she had imagined. Dating felt like a nightmare, just an endless parade of men interested in her appearance but not in her. Her work performance suffered because she was distracted and emotional. Even the gym, which had been her sanctuary, felt wrong now. Every time she worked out, she remembered Kevin had been the one to encourage her in the first place. 6 months after the divorce was final, Caitlyn heard through mutual friends that Kevin had moved to a new apartment, received a promotion, joined a hiking club. He sounded happy. Meanwhile, Caitlyn spent Friday nights alone, watching shows they used to enjoy together, wondering where everything went wrong. That's when Caitlyn decided to call him. She was desperate, lonely, drowning in regret. She hadn't planned what to say. When Kevin actually answered, words failed her and she just started crying. Through sobs, she told him she had made a terrible mistake, that she missed him every single day, that no one would ever love her the way he had. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, Kevin spoke, his voice gentle but unmistakably firm. "Caitlyn, I'm sorry you're hurting, but there's no going back for us." "Please," Caitlyn begged. "Just meet me for coffee. Just talk to me." "No," Kevin said. "I needed to talk 6 months ago. You didn't want to then." After he hung up, Caitlyn started texting him. First came apologies, then reminiscing about happy memories. Then long explanations about how she had changed, how she understood everything now. When Kevin didn't respond to any of it, Caitlyn's messages turned angry. She accused him of never really loving her if he could just throw everything away so easily. His only response after dozens of messages: "Please stop contacting me, Caitlyn. This isn't healthy for either of us." But Caitlyn couldn't stop. She began messaging Kevin's friends, asking about him. She called his parents, who had always been warm to her. They remained polite but distant now. His mother's words cut deep. "Kevin's doing well, dear. I think it's best if you let him move on." The sadness in her voice made it clear Caitlyn was no longer the daughter-in-law they had loved. Caitlyn drove by their old apartment building once, then twice. Then it became part of her regular route home. She joined Kevin's hiking meetup group, showing up in expensive new gear she bought specifically for this purpose, hoping to run into him. He never attended those meetups. Later, she discovered he had left the group entirely after the organizer warned him Caitlyn had joined. She was becoming someone unrecognizable, desperate, obsessive, pathetic. But she couldn't stop herself. In her mind, if she could just get 5 minutes alone with Kevin, she could make him understand they belonged together, that she had made a terrible mistake, that she was truly sorry. Then Caitlyn heard Kevin had started dating someone new. Kyle let it slip when she cornered him at a mutual friend's birthday party she wasn't technically invited to. "Look, Caitlyn, you need to back off," Kyle said firmly. "Kevin's finally happy again. He's seeing someone really nice. Don't mess this up for him." Caitlyn felt like the air had been knocked from her lungs. Another woman already. Only 8 months since their divorce. Meanwhile, Caitlyn had been on dozens of first dates that led nowhere. The thought of Kevin with someone else made her physically ill. Finding her on social media was easy. Her name was Michelle. She was attractive in a natural, unpretentious way. Not as fit as Caitlyn, not as polished, but her smile reached her eyes. There were photos of them hiking together, heads close, looking at something off camera. Michelle had captioned one. "Best tour guide ever." Caitlyn messaged her. She's not proud of what she did. She told Michelle she was Kevin's ex-wife, and that they were working on reconciliation, that Kevin was confused and not over her yet. She suggested Michelle back off if she didn't want to get hurt. Michelle never responded. Instead, Kevin called that night, angrier than Caitlyn had ever heard him. "Don't ever contact Michelle again," he said, his voice hard. "Don't come by my apartment. Don't join my groups. Don't ask my friends about me. It's over, Caitlyn. It's been over for a long time." "She's not right for you," Caitlyn said, her voice small and broken. "You don't get to decide that anymore," Kevin replied. "If you keep this up, I'll get a restraining order." The finality in his tone finally penetrated Caitlyn's denial. This wasn't a temporary separation. This wasn't a break they would eventually come back from. Kevin had moved on completely, and Caitlyn was just the sad ex-wife who couldn't let go. After that phone call, things deteriorated rapidly for Caitlyn. Friends started avoiding her. Apparently, everyone knew about her desperate attempts to win Kevin back. Tessa, who had been her gym confidant during the divorce, stopped returning calls after too many drunk texts about Kevin. Caitlyn was drinking more, working less. Her boss called her in for a serious discussion about her performance. She nearly lost her job. The gym, once her happy place, now felt like a mockery of everything she had destroyed. She still looked good physically, but inside she was completely falling apart. One day, about a year after the divorce, Caitlyn was at the grocery store when she saw them. Kevin and Michelle shopping together. His arm was around her waist as they debated which cereal to buy. They looked so comfortable together, so at ease. Kevin was laughing at something Michelle said. Caitlyn hadn't seen him laugh like that in years, even during their happy times. She ducked behind a display, watching them from a distance. They functioned as a team, checking items off a shared list, discussing dinner plans. They looked like Kevin and Caitlyn used to look before the fitness transformation, before the selfishness, before she threw everything precious away. As they headed toward checkout, Michelle spotted Caitlyn. She whispered something to Kevin, who tensed visibly. He looked over. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Then he deliberately turned away, guiding Michelle to a different checkout line. It was a small gesture, but it communicated everything. He wouldn't even acknowledge her existence anymore. She was nothing to him now, less than nothing. Caitlyn abandoned her half-filled cart in the aisle and ran to her car, sobbing uncontrollably. That night, Caitlyn got drunk alone in her apartment and sent Kevin one final long message. Part apology, part accusation, part desperate plea. She poured out everything. How much she regretted leaving. How terrible dating had been. How she realized too late what they had together. The next morning, hungover and blurry-eyed, she saw his response. Just 2 sentences. I forgive you, Caitlyn. Please seek help and move on with your life. It wasn't what she wanted, but it was what she needed to hear. He forgave her, but he didn't want her back. He had found happiness without her, and she was still stuck, unable to move forward, trapped in the consequences of her own choices. A few weeks later, Caitlyn heard Kevin and Michelle had gotten engaged. The news came through a mutual friend who thought she should know. Are you okay? The friend asked carefully. No, Caitlyn admitted. But that's not Kevin's problem anymore. It was the first completely honest thing she had said in a very long time. Caitlyn wishes she could say she had some miraculous turnaround after that she found herself, found happiness, found someone new. But real life doesn't work that neatly. She's still alone, still regretting what she destroyed, still fighting the urge to drive by his place or check Michelle's social media. Kevin's married now. Caitlyn saw the wedding photos, not because she was invited, but because mutual friends shared them. He looked happier than she had ever seen him. His parents, who once loved her like a daughter, beamed beside him and Michelle. They had fully embraced Michelle, just as they had once embraced Caitlyn. Meanwhile, Caitlyn's apartment feels emptier than ever. The dating apps on her phone sit unused. The body she worked so hard for, the body she thought would bring her everything she wanted, just feels like an empty shell now. Sometimes she catches herself wondering if Kevin would want her back if she gained the weight again, as if that would somehow restore the person she used to be, the person he loved. Her therapist says that's not how it works. Yes, Caitlyn finally started therapy. Too late to save her marriage, but maybe not too late to save herself. Her therapist says she needs to stop defining herself through Kevin's eyes, either through his wanting or his rejection. That she needs to figure out who she is without any man validating her existence. It's hard work. Some days Caitlyn still wakes up reaching for him. Some days she still drafts messages she'll never send. But slowly, painfully, she's accepting that some consequences can't be undone. That sometimes sorry isn't enough. That people move on and we have to let them. Kevin has his new life now. A life that once included Caitlyn but doesn't anymore. A life that by all accounts is happy and fulfilling. And in her darkest moments of honesty, Caitlyn can admit he deserves it. He deserves Michelle, who presumably loves him exactly as he is, not as a backup plan or safety net. And Caitlyn? She's not sure what she deserves, but she's trying to build something new from the ashes of what she burned down. It's not the life she expected. It's harder, lonelier, more humbling than she ever imagined. But it's hers, with all its regrets and painful lessons. So here Caitlyn sits, still checking her phone sometimes, still fighting the urge to reach out one more time. But the messages have stopped. The drive-bys have stopped. The social media stalking has mostly stopped. Not because she's healed completely. She hasn't. But because she finally understands that you can't force someone to love you again, especially when you were the one who stopped loving them first. If Caitlyn could go back and tell herself one thing, that version of herself intoxicated with attention and new possibilities, she would say this: the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. But she can't go back. None of us can. We can only go forward, carrying our regrets, hoping to do better next time, if there is a next time. For now, Caitlyn is just trying to be okay on her own, to find value in herself that isn't tied to how she looks or who wants her. Kevin has moved on, and someday, maybe she will too. And that's Caitlyn's story, friends. A cautionary tale about how easy it is to take for granted the people who love us most. About how attention and validation can become as addictive as any drug. About how sometimes by the time we realize what we had, it's already too late to get it back. The truth is, transformation isn't just about changing your body. It's about growing as a person, becoming better, kinder, more grateful. Caitlyn changed on the outside but became worse on the inside. She let newfound confidence turn into cruelty. She mistook attention for love and novelty for happiness. Kevin didn't fall out of love with Caitlyn because she got fit. He fell out of love because she became someone who treated him as disposable. Someone who valued validation from strangers more than devotion from her husband. Someone who threw away something precious because she thought she could do better, only to discover that better isn't measured in attention or appearance, but in genuine connection and unconditional love. Sometimes the consequences of our choices are permanent. Sometimes people move on and all we can do is learn from our mistakes and try to be better. Not for someone else, but for ourselves. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the relationships in your own life, I'd love for you to hit that like button. Share this video with friends who might need to hear it. And please, subscribe to the channel so you never miss these powerful true stories. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue bringing you content that matters. Remember, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Take care of what you have before you lose it forever. Until next time, this is Emma, reminding you to cherish the people who love you for who you truly are.